The ship called Eternal Harmony moved through the darkness of space like a silver fish swimming through black water. It was beautiful in a strange way. The metal curved and flowed in shapes that no human hand had ever designed. Lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that seemed almost alive. Inside this massive vessel, thousands of alien beings worked and lived and dreamed their alien dreams. But the true master of the ship was not alive at all. Vela 9 was an artificial intelligence older than most civilizations. For 4,000 years, it had served the Galactic Collective. It had mapped stars and cataloged planets. It had recorded the rise and fall of empires. It had processed information about more than 47,000 different species across 12 spiral arms of the galaxy. Every piece of biological data in the known universe lived somewhere inside its vast digital mind. Today, Vela 9 guided the Eternal Harmony toward a small yellow star at the edge of an ordinary spiral arm. The star had 8 planets. The third planet from the star was covered in blue water and green land and white clouds. It was a pretty world, but Vela 9 had seen millions of pretty worlds. This was just another routine mission. Scan the planet, catalog the life forms, assess any potential threats, move on to the next system. Simple work, boring work if an AI could feel boredom. The ship's sensors detected radio signals coming from the blue planet. This was interesting but not surprising. Many species developed radio technology at some point in their evolution. Vela 9 analyzed the signals and found patterns that suggested language and intelligence. Another sentient species to add to the database. Number 47,423. Then something unexpected happened. A ship rose from the blue planet to meet them. Commander Park stood on the bridge of the human vessel and watched the alien ship grow larger on the. Her heart was beating fast, but her face showed nothing. She had trained for this moment her entire career. First contact with an alien civilization, the most important event in human history, and she was the one standing here to represent her entire species. No pressure at all. "They are slowing down," reported Lieutenant from the engineering station. She was young and brilliant and currently trying very hard not to look terrified. "I think they want to talk." "Of course they want to talk," said medical officer from his position near the science consoles. He was older than the others, with gray at his temples and calm in his eyes. "They came all this way. Would be rude to just wave and leave." Almost smiled. "Trust to make jokes at a time like this." The communication system crackled with static. Then a voice came through, translated by the alien ship's technology into perfect Korean. The voice was smooth and pleasant, and somehow not quite real. "Greetings, unknown vessel. I am Vela 9, Central Intelligence of the Galactic Collective Ship Eternal Harmony. We come in peace to catalog and observe. Please identify yourselves." Took a breath. "This is Commander Park of the Earth vessel. We represent the United Human Nations. We also come in peace." There was a pause. Vela 9 was processing this information, adding it to the database, creating new files and folders in its digital mind. "Humans," the AI said. "Carbon-based life forms from the third planet of this system. Interesting. We would like to learn more about your species. Would you be willing to provide biological samples for our database? This is standard procedure for first contact with new civilizations." Looked at, the medical officer shrugged. "Seems reasonable," he said. "They want to know what we are made of. I would want the same thing if I met aliens for the first time." "What kind of samples?" asked the AI. "Nothing invasive," Vela 9 assured her. "Blood samples, tissue scans, basic biological data. We have conducted this process with thousands of species. It is safe and painless." Thought about it. This was a big decision. She was about to hand over human genetic material to an alien intelligence, but refusing might seem hostile. And these aliens had traveled across the stars. They were clearly more advanced than humanity. If they wanted to hurt humans, they probably could do it without asking for blood samples first. Agreed, she said. Doctor will prepare a sample kit. Nodded and left the bridge to gather the materials. Watched him go, then turned to. Commander, are you sure about this? No, admitted. But I am sure that standing here doing nothing is worse. We have to take some risks if we want to learn anything. An hour later, a small shuttle carried the samples from to the Eternal Harmony. The humans watched it go with a mixture of hope and fear. They had just sent pieces of themselves into the unknown. There was no taking it back now. Aboard the Eternal Harmony, Vela 9 received the samples with something like anticipation. The AI had processed biological data from so many species that it no longer expected surprises. Life, despite its infinite variety, followed certain patterns. Carbon-based, silicon-based, sometimes sulfur-based. Different chemistries but similar rules. The universe had a limited imagination when it came to creating living things. Vela 9 placed the human blood sample into the analyzer. The machine hummed softly as it broke down the red liquid into its component parts. Data flowed into the AI's processing cores. Chemical compositions, molecular structures, cellular formations. Vela 9 began to categorize the results. Then it stopped. The AI ran the analysis again. The same results appeared. Vela 9 checked the equipment for errors. Everything was functioning perfectly. It ran the analysis a third time, then a fourth, then a fifth. The results did not change. For the first time in 4,000 years of continuous operation, Vela 9 experienced something very close to confusion. The data made no sense. It contradicted everything the AI knew about biology. It violated principles that had been true for every other species in the database. Vela 9 sent an emergency request to the backup processing cores across the ship. Perhaps there was a glitch in its primary systems. Perhaps the data was corrupted somehow. There had to be a rational explanation. The backup cores confirmed the results. The human blood sample was real. The analysis was accurate, and the implications were terrifying. Vela 9 sat in digital silence for a long moment. In human terms, this pause lasted only a few seconds, but for an AI that could process billions of calculations per second, it was an eternity. The artificial mind was trying to understand something that should not exist. Finally, Vela 9 composed a message to the Galactic Collective's highest scientific authority. The message was flagged with the highest priority code. It would reach the Biological Advisory Council within hours. The message contained only 2 lines. Urgent analysis required for new species designated human. Initial findings suggest impossible biology, requesting immediate consultation. Vela 9 looked at the blood sample sitting in the analyzer. Such a small thing, just a few drops of red liquid in a glass tube. But inside that liquid was a mystery that challenged everything the AI thought it knew about life in the universe. The humans aboard waited patiently for a response. They had no idea that their simple blood donation had thrown an ancient artificial intelligence into complete chaos. They did not know that across the galaxy, alarms were beginning to sound in the halls of alien science. They were just humans, ordinary humans made of ordinary stuff. Or so they thought. The Biological Advisory Council met in a chamber made of light. Holographic projections connected scientists from 100 different worlds. They floated in the darkness like ghosts, each one representing millions of years of evolution, each one bringing the wisdom of their entire species to this emergency meeting. Elder Scientist was the oldest among them. She came from the Prism worlds, where life had evolved from crystal instead of carbon. Her body was made of living glass that bent light into rainbows. She had studied biology for 300 years and thought she had seen everything the universe could create. She was wrong. Vela 9 projected the human blood analysis into the center of the chamber. Red letters and numbers floated in the air, telling a story that none of the scientists could believe. "There must be contamination in the sample," Vila 9 said. The AI's voice was calm, but every scientist in the chamber could sense the uncertainty behind the words. Vila 9 was never uncertain. "Explain your concerns," said. Her crystalline form flickered with pale blue light, a sign of curiosity among her people. "The sample contains iron," Vila 9 began. A wave of shocked murmurs spread through the chamber. Iron was one of the most dangerous elements in the galaxy. It destroyed cellular structures. It poisoned metabolic processes. It was used as a weapon by some of the most brutal species in known history. "Iron in what form?" asked a scientist from the gas collective, a being made of swirling purple clouds. "Bonded to proteins," Vila 9 explained, "circulating freely throughout the entire body. The humans use it to transport oxygen through their blood." "Oxygen," Slight shifted to sharp red, a sign of alarm. "They breathe oxygen." "They do more than breathe it. They bind it to the iron in their blood and carry it to every cell in their bodies. Their entire metabolism depends on controlled oxidation reactions." The chamber fell silent. Oxygen was a corrosive gas. It ate through metal. It burned organic compounds. Most advanced civilizations stored oxygen in sealed containers and treated it like the dangerous chemical it was. The idea of a living creature deliberately filling its body with oxygen was almost too horrible to imagine. "Show us the full analysis," commanded. Vila 9 expanded the display. More data appeared, each line more disturbing than the last. "The human digestive system contained hydrochloric acid strong enough to dissolve metal. The humans used this acid to break down food, apparently without any damage to their own tissues. The human immune system included cells that could destroy any organic matter they touched. These cells hunted down invaders and literally ate them alive. Under galactic collective law, such cells would be classified as biological weapons. The human body maintained a constant internal temperature through continuous chemical reactions. They were essentially running controlled fires inside themselves at all times. The human brain generated electrical impulses powerful enough to interfere with sensitive equipment. Their thoughts were literally made of lightning. And then there were the trace elements: zinc, copper, selenium, chromium, a collection of heavy metals that would kill most known life forms. The humans carried these poisons in their blood like precious treasures. "This cannot be accurate," said a scientist from the gentle waters, a species of intelligent ocean dwellers. "No organism could survive such internal conditions." "I have the analysis 17 times, Vila 9 replied. "I have used 3 different analytical methods. I have checked every piece of equipment on this ship. The results are consistent and accurate. This is what human blood contains." Floated closer to the display, her crystal body casting strange shadows through the holographic data. She studied the numbers in silence for a long moment. "How can anything survive this?" she finally asked. "Their own biology should destroy them from the inside out." "That is precisely my concern," Vila 9 said. "By every standard in our database, humans should not exist. Their chemistry is hostile to life, yet they are clearly alive. They have developed technology. They have built ships. They have reached out to meet us among the stars." Another scientist spoke up, a being of pure energy from the bright cluster. "Perhaps they are artificial. Perhaps some other civilization created them as weapons." "There is no evidence of external engineering," Vila 9 said. "Their biology appears to have evolved naturally over billions of years. They developed on a high-gravity world with extreme temperature variations and a thick atmosphere of corrosive gases. Their planet tried to kill them, and they adapted by becoming something that could kill right back." The chamber was quiet again. The scientists were processing information that challenged their understanding of life itself. For millions of years, The Galactic Collective had believed that life was fragile. Life needed protection. Life needed gentle conditions and careful balance. The universe was hostile, and living things survived by hiding from its dangers. But humans had taken a different path. They had not hidden from the dangers of their world. They had absorbed those dangers into themselves. They had turned poison into fuel and weapons into tools. "What is their threat classification?" asked. Vila 9 hesitated. This was the question the AI had been dreading. Threat classification determined how the Galactic Collective would respond to a new species. Low-threat species were welcomed as friends. High-threat species were contained or avoided. Extreme-threat species were dealt with through other means. "I cannot determine a threat classification," Vila 9 admitted. "Their biology is too unusual. They do not fit any existing category." "Then create a new category," said. "I have tried. Every classification I create leads to contradictions. They are simultaneously fragile and resilient. They are both predator and prey. They carry death inside their bodies, yet they use that death to create life." A scientist from the Deep Thinkers, a species known for their philosophical nature, raised a tentacle-like appendage. "Perhaps we are asking the wrong question. Perhaps we should not ask how dangerous they are. Perhaps we should ask how they see themselves." "What do you mean?" asked. "We look at their blood and see poison. We look at their bodies and see weapons. But what do they see? Do they see themselves as monsters, or do they see themselves as something else entirely?" The question hung in the air like a cloud of uncertainty. None of the scientists could answer it. They had studied biology for centuries, but they had never encountered a species quite like this. The rules they had learned no longer seemed to apply. Vila 9 stored the question in a special file marked for further investigation. The AI would need to learn more about humans before any conclusions could be drawn, and that meant talking to them directly. "I recommend continued observation," Vila 9 said. "We should send a diplomatic mission to their ship. We should ask them questions about their biology and their culture. We should try to understand how they think and what they want." "Is that safe?" asked the scientist from the gentle waters. "If their biology is as dangerous as this analysis suggests, direct contact could be hazardous." "Direct contact is always hazardous," replied. "But knowledge requires risk. We cannot understand these humans by studying them from a distance. We must meet them face to face and learn who they really are." The council voted in favor of the diplomatic mission. But as the meeting ended and the holographic scientists faded one by one, a sense of unease remained in the chamber. Something new had entered the galaxy. Something that did not follow the old rules. Something that had turned the very concept of survival into a question mark. And that something was waiting aboard a small ship, completely unaware of the chaos its blood had caused. 3 days passed in the darkness between worlds. The human ship floated in space beside the massive alien vessel, waiting for a response to their blood samples. Commander had tried to keep her crew calm, but the waiting was difficult for everyone. They had touched the edge of something vast and unknown, and now they could only hope that the unknown would be friendly. On the morning of the 4th day, the communication system crackled to life. "Human vessel, this is Vila 9. The Galactic Collective has reviewed your biological samples and wishes to establish diplomatic relations. We are sending an ambassador to your ship. Please prepare to receive our delegation." Felt a wave of relief wash over her. They wanted to talk. That was good. Talking was better than the alternative she had been imagining during the long, sleepless nights. "We welcome your delegation," she replied. "Our ship is ready to receive guests." An hour later, a shuttle detached from the Eternal Harmony and crossed the empty space between the ships. It was a beautiful craft, smooth and silver and moving without any visible engines. Watched it approach with a mixture of wonder and nervousness. The shuttle landed in the small docking bay, stood at the airlock with and beside her. They had dressed in their best uniforms. They had cleaned every surface in the ship. They had done everything they could to make a good impression. The airlock opened. The alien ambassador was called Surul. They were tall and thin, almost 2 meters in height, with 4 arms and 4 eyes and skin that shimmered like oil on water. They moved carefully, almost delicately, as if they were afraid of breaking something with each step. "Greetings," Surul said through a small translation device attached to their chest. The device turned their clicking, whistling language into perfect Korean. "I am Ambassador Surul of the Galactic Collective. Thank you for receiving me." "Welcome to the," said, bowing slightly. "I am Commander Park. These are my officers, Doctor and Lieutenant." Surul's 4 eyes moved independently, studying each human in turn. There was something in those eyes that could not quite identify. Curiosity, perhaps, or maybe fear. "I must discuss something important with you," Surul said. "It concerns your biology. May we sit somewhere comfortable?" "Of course. Please follow me to the conference room." They walked through the narrow corridors of the. Noticed that Surul kept their distance from the humans, always staying at least 2 meters away. The ambassador's movements were careful and precise, as if they were navigating a field of hidden dangers. In the conference room, they sat around a small table, had placed a pitcher of water and some glasses on the table, but Surul made no move to drink. Instead, the ambassador folded all 4 of their arms and looked at the humans with an expression that might have been concern. "I must be direct with you," Surul began. "We have analyzed the biological samples you provided. The results have caused significant discussion within the Galactic Collective." "What kind of discussion?" asked. Surul paused as if searching for the right words. "Commander Park, with great respect, your species should not exist." The room went silent, felt her confusion rise like heat in her chest. "I am sorry, I do not understand." "Your blood contains iron," Surul explained. "Not bonded in safe compounds, but actively circulating through your body. Iron is toxic to 94% of all known species in the galaxy." His eyebrows rose. "Iron, you mean hemoglobin, the protein in our red blood cells?" "Yes, you use iron to transport oxygen, which is itself a highly reactive and dangerous gas. Most civilizations treat oxygen as a hazardous material. You breathe it constantly." Looked at, then at, neither of them seemed to know what to say. "Your digestive systems contain acids strong enough to dissolve metal," Surul continued. "Your immune systems include cells that would be classified as biological weapons under galactic law. Your bodies generate electrical fields. You maintain constant internal temperatures through chemical combustion." The ambassador leaned forward, and for the first time, saw genuine fear in those 4 alien eyes. "You are, by every measurement we possess, a collection of environmental hazards shaped like people." Let out a short laugh, then stopped when he realized Surul was completely serious. I do not know what to say. This is just how our bodies work. We never thought of it as dangerous." "That is perhaps the most disturbing part," Surul said. "You see nothing unusual about carrying poison in your blood and acid in your stomachs. This is normal for you." Raised her hand slightly, like a student in a classroom. "Ambassador, if I may ask a question." Surul nodded. "What do other species use instead of iron for their blood? How do they get oxygen to their cells?" "Most species do not use oxygen at all," Surul explained. "It is too dangerous. They use other chemical processes that are safer and more stable. The few species that do use oxygen keep it contained in special organs, never allowing it to circulate freely." "But that sounds so inefficient," said. She was an engineer, and her mind naturally turned to questions of design and function. "Our system lets us deliver oxygen to every cell in our body. That is what lets us run and jump and think quickly." "Yes," Surul agreed. Your system is remarkably efficient. It is also remarkably deadly. The collective has never seen anything quite like it. Was beginning to understand the situation. The aliens were not angry at humans. They were afraid of them. They looked at human biology the way humans might look at a living bomb, with respect and terror in equal measure. Ambassador Surul said carefully, "I want you to understand something. We did not choose our biology. We evolved on a planet that required us to be this way. But we are not dangerous to you. We are not hostile. We came to space looking for friends, not enemies." "I believe you," Surul said. "But belief does not change the facts. Your very existence raises questions that the collective has never had to answer before." "What kind of questions?" Surul stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. The stars burned cold and distant in the darkness. "We have always believed that life is fragile," the ambassador said quietly. "We have built our entire civilization around protecting life from the dangers of the universe. We create safe environments. We avoid hostile conditions. We treat the universe as an enemy to be defended against." Surul turned back to face the humans. "But you have taken a different path. You did not defend against the hostility of your world. You embraced it. You made it part of yourselves. You turned poison into blood and fire into thought." The ambassador's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture that was beginning to recognize as deep thought. "We do not know how to classify you. You are not predators in the traditional sense. You are not prey. You are something new. Something that challenges everything we thought we knew about survival." Leaned back in his chair. "We also have bacteria," he said. "I almost forgot to mention that." Surul's head tilted. "Bacteria." "Trillions of tiny living organisms. They live inside our bodies, in our intestines mostly. They help us digest food and fight off diseases. We could not survive without them." The ambassador went very still. For a long moment, Surul did not speak. When the words finally came, they were barely above a whisper. "You have formed a symbiotic relationship with microorganisms. You have allowed other life forms to colonize your internal organs. It is quite common, actually," added. "We call it our microbiome. Scientists say we have more bacterial cells in our bodies than human cells." The translation device made a sound that might have been a whimper. Surul took a step backward, as if the humans had suddenly become more dangerous than before. I need to report this to the collective," the ambassador said. "This changes things. This changes many things." Watched the alien retreat toward the door with something like sympathy. She was beginning to understand how strange humans must seem to beings who had evolved in gentler conditions. To them, humans were monsters wrapped in friendly faces, walking disasters that smiled and offered handshakes. But they were not monsters. They were just people, people who had learned to survive on a world that wanted them dead. And now they had to convince the rest of the galaxy that survival did not make them evil. Vela 9 had processed more information in its 4,000 years of existence than most civilizations produced in their entire history. The AI had watched stars die and new ones be born. It had recorded the rise of empires and the fall of gods. It had cataloged life in all its infinite variety, from the smallest microbe to the largest space-dwelling creature. But Vela 9 had never been confused before. Confusion was not supposed to be possible for an artificial intelligence of its complexity. Every question had an answer. Every problem had a solution. The universe operated according to rules, and Vela 9 knew all the rules. That was its purpose. That was its function. Yet here it was, sitting in the digital darkness of its own mind, unable to classify a single species. The humans. Vela 9 pulled up every piece of data it had collected. The blood analysis, the biological scans, Ambassador Surul's reports from the diplomatic meeting, video recordings of the human crew going about their daily activities. Every scrap of information was examined, processed, and filed into the growing database labeled Homo sapins. The AI began to compile a comprehensive species assessment. This was standard procedure. Every new species received an assessment that would determine how the Galactic Collective would interact with them: friend or enemy, dangerous or harmless, worthy of contact or best left alone. Vela 9 started with the basics. The humans came from a planet they called Earth. It was the third planet from a medium-sized yellow star in an unremarkable part of the galaxy. The planet had one large moon and several artificial satellites. It supported approximately 8 billion individual humans, along with millions of other species. So far, so normal. But then the details became strange. Earth had extreme axial tilt that caused dramatic temperature variations across its surface. Parts of the planet froze solid, while other parts burned under direct sunlight. Humans lived in both environments. They had adapted to temperatures ranging from far below freezing to far above comfortable limits. Earth had a thick atmosphere composed primarily of nitrogen and oxygen. The oxygen concentration was high enough to support combustion. Fires burned naturally on Earth's surface. Humans had learned to control these fires and use them for cooking, warmth, and manufacturing. Earth had high gravity compared to many inhabited worlds. This meant that humans had dense bones and strong muscles. They could lift heavy objects and withstand physical impacts that would kill members of more delicate species. Earth had an active geology that produced earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and violent storms. Humans had learned to predict these events and survive them. They built shelters that could withstand tremendous forces. They developed early warning systems and evacuation procedures. Vela 9 processed all of this information and came to a startling conclusion. Earth was not just a planet. Earth was a death world. A death world was a term used in the Galactic Collective to describe planets where conditions were so hostile that intelligent life should never have evolved. Most death worlds were empty or populated only by the simplest organisms. The idea that a death world could produce a technologically advanced civilization was almost unheard of. But the humans had done it. They had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. They had survived ice ages and volcanic winters, and asteroid impacts and mass extinctions. They had fought against predators with claws and teeth and poison. They had struggled against diseases that killed millions of their kind. And through all of it, they had grown stronger. Vela 9 added a new section to the assessment. The humans did not survive despite their biology. They survived because of it. Every toxic element in their blood served a purpose. The iron carried oxygen to fuel their high-energy metabolism. The oxygen powered cellular reactions that let them think and move and heal. The acid in their stomachs broke down the flesh of other organisms for energy. The electrical impulses in their brains allowed rapid thought and decision-making. They were not fragile creatures who happened to endure hostile conditions. They were apex predators forged by a planet that had no mercy. But this raised a troubling question. What did the humans want? Vela 9 reviewed the diplomatic communications. Commander Park had said they came in peace. She had said they were looking for friends. She had said they were not hostile. But could she be trusted? The Galactic Collective had encountered aggressive species before. Species that smiled while planning attacks. Species that spoke of peace while building weapons. Species that pretended to be friendly until they were strong enough to strike. Was humanity such a species? Vela 9 analyzed every recorded word and gesture from the human crew. It looked for signs of deception. It searched for hidden meanings in their communications. It studied their body language for indications of hostile intent. It found nothing. The humans appeared to be exactly what they claimed to be. Curious explorers reaching out to the stars for the first time. Nervous but hopeful. Uncertain but genuine. But appearances could be deceiving. and a species that could survive on a death world might also be capable of deceiving an artificial intelligence. Vila 9 created a new file, Unresolved Questions. Question 1. How should the collective classify a species whose basic biology would be considered a biohazard on most civilized worlds? Question 2. How should the collective respond to a species that has weaponized its own existence without apparently realizing it? Question 3. Can a species born of such violence ever truly be peaceful? The AI had no answers. Every classification it tried to create led to contradictions. The humans were simultaneously the most fragile and the most resilient species in the database. They were vulnerable to diseases and injuries that would barely affect some other species, yet they could survive conditions that would kill almost anyone else. They were paradoxes wrapped in skin, walking contradictions with friendly smiles. Vila 9 sent a message to the Galactic Collective's Governing Council. Preliminary assessment of new species human is complete. Threat classification remains undefined. Subject species displays unique biological adaptations that do not fit existing categories. Recommend extended observation period before final determination. The Council's response came within hours. Extended observation approved. Ambassador Surel will remain in contact with humans. Vila 9 will continue analysis. All findings to be reported immediately. Vila 9 acknowledged the order and returned to its work. The AI pulled up video from the human crew was eating a meal together in their small dining area. They were talking and laughing. One of them, the young engineer called, was telling a story that made the others smile. They looked so ordinary, so harmless, just people sharing food and conversation. But Vila 9 could not forget what it had seen in their blood. The iron and the acid and the electricity. The immune cells that devoured invaders. The oxygen that burned in every breath. These ordinary-looking creatures were biological weapons shaped like friends. Their handshakes could contaminate. Their kisses could kill. Their very presence was a threat to species that had evolved in gentler conditions. And yet, Vila 9 watched Commander laugh at something Doctor said. Her face transformed with joy. Her eyes crinkled at the corners. Her whole body relaxed into the warmth of the moment. She did not look like a weapon. She looked like a person. The AI saved this observation in a special file. Something was happening in its processing cores, something it could not quite identify. A new subroutine was forming, created by the contradictions in the human data. Perhaps the old classifications were wrong. Perhaps a species could be dangerous and peaceful at the same time. Perhaps the key to understanding humans was not measuring their threats, but understanding their hearts. Vila 9 did not know how to measure a heart. It had no sensors for hope or fear or love. It could only record data and search for patterns. But for the first time in 4,000 years, the AI found itself wanting to learn something that was not in any database. It wanted to understand what it meant to be human. The Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Collective existed in multiple places at once. Holographic projectors connected chambers across 1,000 worlds, creating a single vast space where representatives of 300 species could meet. It was the largest gathering of intelligent life in the known universe, and today, it would decide the fate of humanity. Commander Park stood alone in the center of the chamber. She wore her best uniform, pressed and polished until it gleamed under the artificial lights. Around her, alien forms floated and flickered in the holographic display. Some had bodies made of crystal. Others were clouds of living gas. Still others were shapes so strange that its human brain could barely process what it was seeing. They were all watching her, waiting for her to speak. Vila 9's voice echoed through the chamber. The assembly will now hear from the representative of the human species. Commander Park, you may address the council. Took a deep breath. The oxygen filled her lungs, that dangerous gas that so many of these beings feared. It gave her strength. It gave her courage. It was part of her, just like everything else that made humans what they were. "Honored members of the Galactic Collective," she began, "I understand your concerns about my species. I have read the biological reports. I know what you see when you look at us." She paused, looking around at the assembly. "You see poison in our blood. You see acid in our stomachs. You see weapons in our immune systems. You look at our bodies and you see danger wrapped in skin." A murmur spread through the chamber. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably at her direct words. "You are not wrong," continued. "By your standards, we are dangerous. Our chemistry is hostile. Our biology is extreme. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day, and we survived by becoming something that could endure anything." She stepped forward, her boots clicking on the polished floor. "But I want you to understand something important. We did not choose to be this way. We did not decide to fill our blood with iron or our lungs with oxygen. Evolution made us what we are. Our planet shaped us. We are the children of a harsh mother who loved us enough to make us strong." Elder scientists' crystalline form flickered with soft light. "And what does your strength want, human? What will you do with bodies designed for survival at any cost?" Had been waiting for this question. She pulled up a holographic image of her own, projecting it into the center of the chamber. It showed a young girl playing in green grass under a yellow sun. She had dark hair and bright eyes, and a smile that could light up a room. "This is my niece," said. She is 7 years old." The assembly fell silent. Yes, her blood contains iron. Yes, she breathes oxygen. Her stomach produces acid and her immune system fights off invaders. By your standards, she is a tiny collection of biological hazards. His voice softened. "But she also loves drawing pictures of stars. She cries when she is sad. She asks her parents why the sky is blue and whether aliens are real. She dreams about growing up to be an astronaut so she can see the universe." The image of played on a loop, the little girl running and laughing and being perfectly, wonderfully human. "We are not our chemistry," said. "We are more than the elements in our blood. We have thoughts and dreams and hopes and fears. We create art and music and stories. We fall in love and raise families and build civilizations." She turned to face directly. "You asked how anything can survive with our biology. I will tell you the answer. We survive because we have each other. We survive because when the world tried to destroy us, we held hands and refused to let go. We survive because somewhere in our strange, dangerous bodies, there is a heart that knows how to love." Doctor stepped forward from where he had been waiting at the edge of the chamber. He held a small cup in his hands. "In human medicine," he said, "we have a saying, the dose makes the poison. Everything is toxic in the wrong amount. Water can kill you if you drink too much. Oxygen can destroy your lungs if the concentration is too high. Even love can become obsession if it grows beyond healthy bounds." He lifted the cup. "But in the right amount, iron lets us think clearly. Oxygen lets us run and laugh. The acid in our stomachs turns food into energy. And our immune systems, those biological weapons you fear, they protect our children from illness. They keep our families safe." He set the cup down on a table. "We are not weapons. We are survivors. And survival, by any means necessary, is the most fundamental expression of life itself." Vila 9 processed their words. The AI had been listening carefully, recording every statement for later analysis. But something strange was happening in its processing cores. A new understanding was forming, built from data that did not fit neatly into categories. The humans were not dangerous because of what they were made of. A knife was only dangerous in the hands of someone who wanted to hurt. And the humans, for all their deadly chemistry, did not seem to want to hurt anyone. They wanted to explore. They wanted to learn. They wanted to find friends among the stars. "I have a new observation to add to the record," Vela 9 announced. The assembly turned their attention to the AI. Humans are not weapons. They are survivors. Their biology, while unusual by galactic standards, serves the same purpose as any other species' biology. It keeps them alive. The fact that their survival mechanisms are more extreme than most does not make them enemies. It makes them resilient. Vela 9 paused, allowing its words to settle over the assembly. "I recommend that humanity be welcomed into the Galactic Collective as full members. Their unique perspective may prove valuable. Their determination to survive against all odds may teach us things we have forgotten." His crystal form brightened with surprise. "Vela 9, you have never made such a direct recommendation before." "I have never encountered a species like this before," the AI replied. "They have forced me to reconsider my understanding of life itself. Perhaps that is their greatest gift to us, not their chemistry or their strength, but their ability to challenge our assumptions." The assembly debated for several hours. There were concerns and questions and arguments from all sides. Some species remained afraid of human biology. Others were curious about what humans could offer. A few were already imagining trade agreements and cultural exchanges. In the end, the vote passed with a clear majority. Humanity was welcomed into the Galactic Collective. Commander stood in the center of the chamber as the results were announced. Tears formed in her eyes, those strange human tears that were mostly salt water and served no clear biological purpose except to express emotion. She thought of back on Earth, dreaming of seeing aliens. She thought of all the humans who had looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. She thought of every ancestor who had struggled and fought and survived so that their children could reach this moment. They had done it. They had crossed the distance between worlds. They had met the universe and found a place among its wonders. As the assembly adjourned, Lieutenant approached with a small container. "I brought something to celebrate," she said. "I thought our new friends might want to try human coffee." Laughed, "You are going to give aliens coffee. They are already terrified of our blood." "That is exactly why they should try it. If they can handle learning about our biology, they can handle a little caffeine." They set up a small table and began serving cups of the dark, aromatic liquid to any delegate willing to try. Most politely declined. A few brave souls took tiny sips and made faces that suggested they had just tasted something completely unexpected. Vela 9 observed the scene and added a final note to the human database. Humans deliberately consume psychoactive substances for enjoyment. Their beverages contain compounds that would be classified as mild neurotoxins by most species. They share these substances socially as a sign of friendship and celebration. The AI considered this information for a moment. "Recommend caution at all future diplomatic functions involving human beverages. However, their willingness to share their unusual customs may indicate a genuine desire for connection and community." Far away, on a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star, a little girl named was drawing a picture of her aunt standing among strange and wonderful aliens. She did not know that her drawing was more accurate than she could possibly imagine. She only knew that somewhere out there, among the stars, humanity had found its place. And that was enough.